this idea that, right, the ontological shock. If the world finds out, it just won't be the same. We'll go down in, flames. Is that true? What can humanity? I think a human on its own is capable, of a lot more than humanity as a whole. That makes sense. In the sense that, you know, humanity is requiring a lot of different personalities and cultures and thoughts and, right, beliefs coming together to try to balance out into something that pushes forward. Whereas a human, maybe whatever, just depending on who they are, can get through more or less, right? We're not all the best Olympic athletes in the world. There's only a few, right? Like that. So clearly humans on their own can do maybe more than humanity can. So maybe there's lots of people who would be fine with it, but as a whole, we just wouldn't survive that knowledge of knowing. But then again, you go, well, should we suppress it too? That if this phenomena is real, is suppressing it? Is that the reason they're not letting it out?
I was, believe it or not, thinking about this on the plane because I was thinking about ontological shock. No joke, on the plane, and because I initially thought that the majority of the world either wouldn't be able to handle it, would deny it, whatever the evidence. It would really disrupt, the faith of 50 million evangelical Christians and X number of Muslims, and it's a big shift. But then I was thinking it really would depend on what the information is. Is it just, all right, NHI exists and they visited planet Earth? I think we could all handle that.
Yeah.
Is it they've been controlling or pulling the strings, or do they have some intention to harm us? There's hundreds of different scenarios. So it's kind of what, like, we don't really talk about those specifics.
Sure.
When we hear of Elizondo or any of the people talk about disclosure and being ready, and it's going to be an adjustment, and eventually we'll just get back to go to work and doing being with our families, because our life is finite, and we're going to hold on to those things that are tangible and important. But yeah, it's just in reference to, right, it exists, maybe it's visited or it has visited.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I agree.
And if they said, hey, we've been genetically engineering you, and you 500,000 people are half alien from this star system, and this, but not you, and we chose to abduct you versus you. I'm like, I wasn't abducted. What's up? It could become.
It's a good point. I agree. I actually 100% agree. I've always said it's about disruption. How disruptive is that information in our life? Just like you said, if we just find out, there's life out there, they've come a few times, whatever. Mm-hmm. Or no, they're abducting people on a daily, and watch the skies and watch your back, and they're doing this, and that becomes way more disruptive, right? So it's all about disruption. I completely agree. Real quick, I just want to say to the chat, thank you to everyone that's watching. Put in your super chats. I see some super chats that have gone in. We'll get to them at the end here of the stream. We'll just go through them all. So I promise we're going to get to your questions, chat. So yeah, I think, we're fighting so much to get the truth, but we don't. Are we thinking enough about what that truth will do? Right? Like we're so like the dog chasing a car. Well, what's he going to do when he catches up to the car? Bite the tire?
Right.
I mean, like what is the goal?
And is that the reason the US government is not disclosing it? Because
sure,
it's not to. I always think, and I probably still do, that they're never going to disclose, because they're not going to disclose a power that's more greater, an entity that's more powerful than themselves. That's just not.
That's interesting.
It's not wise. It's not to manage 600 million people. You're never going to take that risk. And there's value in the control and power in the control of controlling information.
Sure.
But is there a small percentage chance that they're not telling us because it is terrifying? And I saw this little clip of Donald Trump. I think it was Donald Trump talking to a judge, and I did post it. or a judge recounting his conversation with Trump, and the judge said, you know, hey, you promised you'd release the JFK files, and Trump said, you know why I didn't? This is more in the last term, because if you know what I know, you'd be shocked or horrified. It was something like he had a reason. Now, maybe that was sort of made up, or, you know, who knows? If the government's going to release files, they're going to release what they feel comfortable us seeing.
Absolutely.
There's never going to be some full file dump. Although I thought the ones they released, and the one especially linked to UFOs, was pretty cool if they're real. I think they are real. Did you think they were real?
Which one?
Like the two?
one?
Well, I guess the first one that you talked about in your show yesterday.
With JFK, yeah. I actually had to issue a correction at the beginning of the live stream about that. So
okay.
I got a lot of pushback yesterday.
What was the correction?
Basically, that I'm not sure of the provenance of that document. I don't know entirely if that's real or not.
Yeah, I got that too. Because I posted something on it, and I think it was Grant Levac, or I think that's his name.
Yeah, he posted on mine too. There's definitely a lot of sheriffs out there in the UFO community who have self-deputized themselves that feel the need to go around and tell people, you effed up.
Yeah, I know.
And
tell me about the provenance. You go and find out the provenance. You know?
Yeah, Grant I like a lot, actually.
I love him too, but yeah.
He's the only one that came to me respectfully about it. You know, hey man, everyone else was like, I hate the standing on a soapbox and looking down on you and telling you you screwed up, you suck, you didn't do the work, I do the work. It's like, whoa, calm down. You know, it's a quick little tangent, but I made a post yesterday on Twitter that I still strongly stand behind. I feel like people have learned a far inferior way to communicate through social media, Twitter, the internet, you know, because I think a lot of these people would never say these things normally, but because just like something about it has made them just forget that there's a real person on the other end of that account. And it's really
anonymity will do that, right? Because often,
absolutely,
not always,
or no anonymity. Sometimes people that aren't, they're who they are, and they're just out there. They were talked to that way on Twitter, so they think, oh, this is how you talk on Twitter, so this is how I'm going to be, and they forget, hey man, we're real people. What happened to us? What happened to us that we can't just talk to each other and come after each other, and there has to be some sort of ulterior motive why this person posted this thing and they're an evil person. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so lost with it. I just think to myself, which is why I'm not on Twitter. I mean, if you know, I'm not on there very much at all. I post my videos, I'm out. I hardly ever comment.
I think you probably spend 20 minutes a day on it.
Barely, if that. I just, for me, if Twitter went away, my life continues. My life isn't hanging on Twitter. I don't really, I'm not going to make decisions based off what some random stranger on Twitter commented and told me to do. It's like, why would I do? I mean, what are you expecting?
But you're human, and we're all human, and we're going to be impacted by it. Even if we say this person means nothing, I don't care. We all do.
It still does. Yeah, exactly. It still means exactly. Which is why I stay off it. I'm not built for it, man. I come from a different time, like yourself, like before the internet, and I guess I'll never get used to it. I'll never understand it or get used to it.
And most of these people wouldn't say what they say in person. If they were
of course
there
not.
in person, it's
of course
distance
not.
And anonymity, but mostly distance.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just becomes no one cares about how the message is delivered. They just care about the message. And I'm just not a fan of that. I think that the delivery of a message is also important, right? Like, in fact, I would argue it's more important to some extent, a father giving a message to his child, if he beats it into him or he sits him down and explains it to him, but the same message, right? The same lesson he wants him to learn. So I think the delivery of the message matters.